Great. Thank you for that fantastic introduction, Rob. Can everybody hear me? I know after a year in the pandemic, I've learned not to take this for granted. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So again, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here with you today and for this opportunity to support the Washington Space Business Roundtable. Can't wait to do this again in person, hopefully sometime soon. We have a fantastic lineup, and I look forward to Dr. Scolese's fireside chat here in a few minutes. As you all know, the NRO has been responsible for monitoring the dynamic threat environment here on Earth, a threat environment that continues to evolve and become more dangerous every day. And as that space threat becomes more dangerous, our space assets need to evolve and adapt to stay ahead. This means applying the NRO's unique experience and access to expertise from across the entire Department of Defense in new ways. And it also means being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and leveraging commercial innovation, which, as we all know, is also rapidly evolving as technology and access to space becomes more routine. I believe that the NRO is uniquely positioned to address today's national security challenges, and industry, commercial companies like Astroscale US are here to support. So now it's my honor to introduce Dr. Chris Scolese. Dr. Scolese is the 19th director of the National Reconnaissance Office, having been sworn in on August 1st, 2019. He began his career in 1978 as a naval officer, supporting nuclear propulsion programs for the Navy and the Department of Energy. And of course, I somewhat regret the timing of this introduction, given that Air Force is going to trounce Navy in about a month and a half, but that's a story for another time. All joking aside, Chris joined NASA in 1987 and was assigned to Goddard Space Center. In 2001, he moved to NASA headquarters in DC, where he served as the Deputy Associate Administrator in the Office of Space Science. 3 years later, he became Deputy Director of Goddard. After returning to NASA headquarters, where he served a brief period as acting administrator, he was named Director of the Goddard Space Center in 2012, where he remained until being appointed the head of the National Reconnaissance Office. So with that kind of distinguished career, I think that we'll all agree that we're in good hands. Dr. Scolese, Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. Thanks for the great summary of NRO. I can probably say less. But good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. As Ron said, I'm looking forward to the day when we can all be here in person and see each other and have a chance to interact. Before I start, though, today was a pretty exciting day, and I'd like to congratulate Blue Origin and the crew on a successful flight today. That was really spectacular. Now getting on to the NRO. I know a lot of you out there know about the NRO, but not everybody knows exactly what we do. The NRO turns 60 in about 6 weeks, so I want to spend a little time on our history, but I want to spend a little more time looking ahead. When the NRO was formed in 1961, the U.S. already had a very clear understanding that our modern way of life, our economy, our military, and our national security would hinge upon our access to and freedom to operate in space. Since the NRO's mission has been to maintain and expand our intelligence advantage in space to protect and defend the United States. For 6 decades running now, we've done just that by providing the greatest ISR imagery and data on the planet. On any given day, we serve about 500,000 users across the government. That includes the DoD, every IC agency, some domestic agency, obviously policymakers, decision makers, and most importantly, we provide direct support for our warfighters. But right now, the U.S. is locked in a power competition in a very strategic environment, space, where an incredible amount of time and resources are being expended trying to threaten or challenge our operational advantage in space and the capabilities we provide. Here's what we know. China and Russia are investing heavily and counter space capabilities. Newer and better assets, more weaponry, their large-scale rapid buildup actually might be one of the worst kept secrets in recent memory. And we know why they're engaged in this competition. A commanding position in space is critical to their economic, diplomatic, and military interests. That's where we are. Here's where we're going. NRO will continue to be a cornerstone in our nation's strategic and operational upper hand in space. Through unrivaled situational awareness and intelligence through the best imagery and signals data on the planet. But to do that, we have to accelerate and we have to improve, particularly in our way to innovate and deliver capability on orbit. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to counter the threats we're facing. We're making architectural changes to improve resiliency, increase capacity and capabilities, and ensure the delivery of NRO mission essential functions. This is our diversified architecture, made up of national and commercial satellites, large and small constellations across multiple orbits. We have to continue leveraging commercial industry. Commercial partners now provide imagery as a service, which allows us to focus on other tasks. In some cases, we can buy entire systems that adapt or adopt them for our own purposes. Commercial capabilities like launch, production spacecraft, and cloud computing have allowed us to move faster and reduce cost. We have to continue the evolution of our acquisition process. As many of you know, NRO is known across government for our ability to reduce traditionally lengthy development cycle. This has allowed us to explore unique capabilities to meet our mission needs, but we have to go faster. The environment is changing very quickly, as we said earlier, and we have to stay ahead of that through all of our process. Through programs like our Directors in Innovation Initiative, we're actively seeking out new suppliers, cutting-edge technologies, and high payoff concepts across the entire spectrum of capabilities. This approach has already given us opportunities to explore applications for artificial intelligence, machine learning, experiment with prototypes, and develop diverse and more efficient ways of distributing data. Finally, we have to continue the evolution and diversification of our workforce. I can't commend our people enough. We had a record year during the pandemic, and our capabilities didn't waver because of the outstanding support we received from every member of our workforce, government, civilian, military, or contractor. Everybody participated in ways that kept us moving. But we're not doing our job if we're not doing more to canvass, recruit, develop, train, and equip the next generation to stand up and take their place among us. New voices lead to new insights and new ideas. We have to challenge our knowledge base, and we have to make a deliberate commitment to support growth. These priorities, along with our continued partnerships across industry and international partners, will allow us to continue leading the way in the space domain and keep delivering what we have for 60 years running. Before I turn it back over for questions, I again want to congratulate Jeff Bezos, Wally Funk, who finally had her chance to go in space, Mark Bezos and Oliver Damon and the Blue Origin team for their successful launch and landing down in West Texas. All of us at NRO hope it's the first of many successful flights to come, as we've seen this month, a very exciting month for opening up the space frontier. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Rob, for moderating the questions.
Great, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris, for those remarks. Before we begin our fireside chat, if you will, I'd just like to make a few notes. First is that we invite the audience to submit questions in the chat room. We do have a full program today, but we'll try to get to as many audience questions as possible towards the end of the session. If there are questions submitted to the chat that we don't have time to feature today, WSBR will work with the NRO to try to answer as many of those as we can at a later date, and they will be posted at our website as soon as we can. Additionally, just keep in mind when you're submitting questions that given Dr. Scolese's highly classified portfolio, there may be questions that he simply can't address, but we'll do our best to get them answered. So with that, we'll now turn to Dr. Scolese. So Chris, I guess for our first question, you may have covered this already in your initial remarks to some extent, but we'd like to start with asking you about what is NRO's immediate focus and how that fits with the greater mission of protecting, defending, and securing the space domain.
I'm sorry, Rob, you broke up there. You said except for.
So I said we'd like to start by asking you what an NRO's immediate focus is and how that fits with the greater mission of protecting, defending, and securing the space domain.
Oh, sure. I mean, the NRO, as you know, our job is to provide the overhead capability to look and listen on the Earth. So we provide overhead ISR, looking into or listening in particular in denied areas, globally. So that's really fundamentally what we do, and that's done with space systems and ground systems in order to deliver those capabilities. And I'm sure people know that we work very closely with our mission partners, the NGA and NSA, that task our systems so that we're focused on the right national needs to deliver information to policymakers, leaders, and warfighters.
Thank you. So what is the NRO's relationship with the Space Force and the Spacecom, and how do you coordinate with each other?
So we have an excellent relationship with both the Space Force and Space Command, and have obviously with Space Force since its inception, and Space Command as its during its time in the Air Force, and now as a separate command. And we work very closely to coordinate our activities through various activities where we, with Space Force in particular, we look to make sure that we're coordinated in our development efforts and are working closely to make sure that they're complementary, not duplicative, add to the resiliency that we need. With Space Command, we work to make sure that, and we do this every day, that we're operating our constellations of satellites in a unity of effort so that we can operate efficiently and react to any challenges or circumstances that may arise in a coordinated way. And we do this, we practice. So I'm sure some of the people on the audience today have participated in war games or tabletop exercises where we'll go off and actually test our ability to meet the need, whatever that need may be in the war game. And that helps us to better refine our procedures and tactics so that we can address things that come up in the future.
Thank you. Why is NRO not a part of Space Force?
So, the NRO is it serves a national need. We have a requirement to meet national objectives, not just DoD objectives. So we sit in a very interesting, place in the environment. We're both in the DoD and we're also in the intelligence community. So serving that need is something that we need to consider. But having said that, the important thing, the most important thing is the question you asked before, is how do we work together to make sure that we're addressing the nation's needs? And we have very complex sets of needs. So working together, we're addressing those, as I discussed in the previous question. But to sort of reiterate, we need to support everything from the very strategic, what may happen and what can we learn with the information that we can glean from national systems, to what do we have to do to support the warfighter who is in the midst of a situation in real time. And marrying all of those systems together is really how we work very, very closely to make sure we can do that effectively. So I would say the real thing that we have to do, and that I believe we're doing well, is work well together and make sure that we deliver the nation what the nation needs all the time.
So when you say that the climate in space has never been more competitive, what do you mean exactly by that? And is it commercial, military, science, all of the above? Maybe you could elaborate on that point.
Well, I would say there's all forms of competition. As we have said, space has become more congested. That's definitely true, and that's because there are more entrants in space. It's no longer, a couple of countries that are delivering national systems up there. We have many more nations that are participating in space. We're doing far more in terms of all dimensions, science and commercial. We're putting up, much more capable communication systems that have many, many satellites. And, on the contested side, we're seeing that other nations, principally right now, China and Russia, are developing, anti-satellite weapons. There was just a test, a few weeks back that I'm sure people read about in the papers. And there have been tests, in the past that we've seen where satellites have been shot down in space to demonstrate those capabilities. That's where the contested portion of space comes in. And then, of course, we want to make sure that our capabilities can survive despite whatever activities are up there. And that includes everything from those who may want to be doing harm to us or preventing us from doing our job, to also protecting ourselves from space debris. So one thing I didn't mention, it's been, more than 60 years now that we've been up in space. It's going on 70 years. And there's a lot of debris up there. And we're fortunate there are companies that are working to reduce that. And we have some international norms to help us reduce it. But there's still a lot of debris up there that we have to deal with. So it's a congested and a contested environment. And we need to work in that environment.
Thank you. Yeah, speaking of debris, I work in the insurance industry, so I'm well aware of the debris problem. It's something that we get a lot of questions about all the time from all different sides. So, with speaking of the commercial sector, if you will, which insurance is part, what does NRO's future architecture look like, and what role does the commercial sector play in that scheme?
So, commercial is coming on strong with lots and lots of capabilities, and we're seeing, everything from electro-optical systems that are becoming much more mature on the commercial side to radar systems, to RF systems. So it's a very, very, burgeoning market. And we are intending to take advantage of it. The commercial systems are part of our current architecture and are a more important part of our future architecture. They're providing capabilities that in some cases replace capabilities that the NRO has traditionally done. That allows us to focus in other areas where the challenge is greater, or there may be no commercial need for it. So it enhances our ability to address the national mission. It provides resiliency by having the capable systems up there that we don't control, but we can use. Allows us to support the national infrastructure in ways that we couldn't before, by providing more global access in some cases. And commercial is developing capabilities that we can utilize. So I talked about, in some respects, services like electrical, delivering imagery, delivering radar images, etc. But there's also launch. I mean, commercial launch has really, reduced the cost of launch. So that gives us an opportunity to do things. Commercially produced, production line almost, satellites offer us the opportunity to take advantage of those, so that reduces the development cost. If we can use a satellite that is being mass produced, that reduces our cost. We don't have to do that development. If it has the right resources, even better. We don't have to modify it. It'll be available faster because we don't have to go through the design and development phase. And depending on how far along they are in their production line, we also have statistics on how well they operate. So that gives you even greater confidence in the systems that you're that you're procuring and using. So you know, the commercial world and the capabilities that are being developed offer, you know, just an incredible opportunity for us to take advantage of, and we are. It is part of our architecture, and it is a critical part of our future architecture.
Thank you. When you're adding additional spacecraft to your systems, you also add a lot of data streams. I think I plan to collect and manage that volume of information.
You broke up again, but I think you said, how do we plan to manage the large volumes of data coming down?
Yeah. How do you plan to collect and manage the large volumes of information that are coming down from all the spacecraft?
Yeah, well, that's always a challenge, but you know, we have a ground architecture today that can deal with large volumes of data that are coming down, and you know, we intend to adapt those, you know, going forward. Some of the things we're doing is obviously we take advantage of the technological advances that are coming along with the various systems that are out there as new processors are developed and new computing techniques are developed. We're relying on those. We're taking advantage of cloud, you know, the commercial cloud services to help us both store data, make data available, and allow us to do computing. So we're taking advantage of you know, of many different applications. The other part of what we have to do, and we're working to use those same technologies, it's not just the amount of data that's coming down, it's how quickly can we deliver that data to the user, whether that's the analyst, the policymaker, or the warfighter. And we're continuing to work to develop you know, our systems that will allow us to do that. Along those lines, we're using either artificial intelligence or machine learning to allow us to condense the data to what is needed so that we can move it, reduce the volume and move it faster to the user, and therefore achieve lower latency and greater efficiency.
Thank you. So what is the NRO doing to spur innovation and development and new capabilities?
Okay, well, we're doing a number of things. I mean, one, I mentioned, you know, we're working with the commercial companies in that, and we've had a number of study contracts that people have seen, I'm sure, that have been going on for the last few years. We in GeoInt and our AS&T organization, we have a number of technology initiatives. I mentioned the Director's Innovation Initiative. That's an area where we go out regularly looking to find new ideas. That comes out, it's typically an annual call to go off and do that. And the idea there is, particularly for the Director's Innovation Initiative, is to go off and get new technologies, new capabilities, and to encourage new participants to work with us so that we can see what is out there and how it can be adapted to the needs of the NRO. And then there's the Green Lighting Initiative, where we can actually fly many of those technologies, and we'll find opportunities to do that. Earlier, we talked about, you know, commercial opportunities. You know, in addition to having commercial opportunities, in launch, we'll look for ride share, we'll look for other opportunities to be able to go off and test those technologies in space. And that gives us a leg up. If we can go off and demonstrate that the capability has flown in space, or the technology has flown in space, we put it a long way towards being accepted to be used on more critical systems, and hopefully we've helped advanced industry to develop those capabilities further and make them available even more broadly so that they can be used. So those are just a few of the examples that we have. If anybody is really interested in going off and looking at it, I'd encourage you to go to our website and in particular look at the AS&T website, where you'll see a number of activities that are going on that are specifically focused on technology and capability opportunities. If you're talking, we can't hear you. Yep, I'm still.
Hey, Rob, this is Betsy. Why don't you try and switch back to your computer audio? The same way that you switched to the phone audio.
Actually,
Can you hear me now?
yep,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, great.
Oh, we lost you again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay, so I tried to improve the audio, but evidently I just made it disappear. So let's try this old-fashioned way. So what I was trying to ask, which technology didn't allow me to ask, is that the NRO continues to get praised for its lean, agile acquisition process. What allows you to streamline while others can't?
I wouldn't say there's anything special, but I would say there's a few ingredients. One of the things, well, I'll kind of list them. I think first and foremost is we have a relatively lean organization. Between the acquiring organization and the leadership here is typically one layer, so we can respond very quickly as we need to, whether it's dealing with an issue or it's making a decision to pursue a given path. The other is we have end-to-end responsibility. And by that, I mean, we're there at the beginning, from concept development through design, development, test, operations, and ultimately, you know, the ending of a given mission. But what that allows us to do, and of course, we're doing this with our partners, right? I mean, we're doing it with our contractors and our military partners and our international partners, and to get that done. But what the end-to-end responsibility allows us to do is allows us to learn as we're going along. We learn in the concept phase about what is possible. We learn when we're in operations what the limitations are, and we learn from our partners what more they need as they're participating in our operations of our missions, and then we can cycle that back very quickly if we're building multiples of something, and adjust so that we put the best capability up there we can. And if it's not a multiple, we can take the lessons that we've learned and bring it into the concept phase as we go off to develop the new capability that needs to be out there. And then finally, and I believe this, you know, across the aerospace industry in particular, we have an incredible workforce. It's incredibly motivated and incredibly dedicated, you know, which I believe all of us have. But our workforce was designed to be diverse. We have a cadre workforce of government civilians. We have a military of all the military services there, and we have a CIA component. And that allows us to continually bring in new ideas, new perspectives. So I think those four ingredients, a streamlined management structure where you can get to the leadership very quickly, or you can get to the operators very quickly, end-to-end responsibility, an incredibly capable workforce, and a diverse workforce is really what allows us to accomplish our mission.
Thank you. So I guess my next question is sort of a bit of a pivot to a different, I guess, concept, if you will, and it's something that's near and dear, I think, to everyone on this call's heart, probably everyone in the world right now, is how you're functioning during the pandemic and how you're pulling off what you're pulling off. You put 12 payloads into orbit last year aboard 6 different rockets, which was a record for you guys, and you already added another 4 payloads this year. How have you managed to do all that during a pandemic, and maybe what lessons have you learned from COVID?
Well, that's a great question. I would go and say that the things that we just talked about were certainly critical to it, but the most critical piece during the pandemic was the dedication of the workforce, unquestionably. We did many of the things that other people have done. You know, we had to go off and work in shifts. We had a social distance. We did enhanced cleaning. So we did many of the same things that everybody else did. But we stayed focused on the mission. We knew what we had to get done for the nation, and we knew what was at stake if we didn't do it. And we had to adapt. One of the things we adapted to is we're doing today. At the beginning of the pandemic, the NRO could not have supported this meeting. We had no way to do a unclassified video chat of any kind. We worked with our communications directorate here, said we need that capability to communicate to our workforce. We're going to need that capability to interact, you know, more broadly with our customers and our suppliers. And they came up with a way to do it. And we found out, you know, we found a way to do it. The other, I would say, is we worked very, very hard to communicate our status, not only to our leadership, the people that we support, you know, in Congress and the administration, to our military partners, the NGA, NSA, et cetera, but also to the workforce and to the contractor community. We made sure that we communicated often and regularly, both verbally and via messaging, whether it's a text message or an email, so that people knew what we were thinking, knew what we were doing, and were aware of what we needed from them in order to accomplish the mission. I think many other organizations did that as well. We were fortunate that we were able to, you know, keep everything on track, and we're very proud that we were able to get all of those payloads up. And I'm pleased to say that you know, not only were there payloads that were up there was some brand new capability up there, and they're all working extremely well, demonstrating you know, some new capabilities.
Thank you. I guess we do have quite a few audience questions, which we'd like to get to shortly, but if I could just ask one more question, maybe regarding sort of a 2-part question, if you will, just regarding the future, right? And it's about what challenges lay ahead for the NRO and what are your priorities in the coming years?
Well, of course, you know, our number one priority is our prime mission to deliver, you know, the premier, GEOINT and SIGINT data that the nation needs. And of course, we're going to have to do that in a more congested and contested environment, as we were talking about. So, you know, our ability to be resilient is absolutely critical under stress. We're going to have to be able to, you know, to deal in a situation where people may be actively trying to deny us our ability to do that. So that's an area that we need to work, and our architecture is moving in that direction to have more capability to deal with that, to be more proliferated. The other is to be able to deliver data faster, because the world is moving faster, situations are moving faster. We talked about that. Again, we're going to need technology and innovation to go off and do that. You know, we're looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning, commercial systems, distributed systems, you know, in order to accomplish all of those things. Can't go into all of them here. clearly we don't have enough time to do that. And then, finally, I would leave with two things, which I think are the two overarching things. One, we need to innovate, and we need to innovate faster. Innovation is going to be absolutely critical. All the things that I mentioned before. Our competitors are not standing still. Whether they're very high-end technological competitors, or whether they're just trying to deceive us with what they're doing. So we have to be able to innovate faster. That means developing new capabilities, new technologies, and adapting them to our use. The other is we have to continue to have the outstanding workforce that we have been so fortunate to have over these last 60 years. And the NRO, just 5 years ago, a little more than 5 years ago, set up our own cadre. So we are now in the process where we are recruiting. We have interns. We have our second year of interns here. Absolutely incredible students who are working at the NRO and actually working on missions and doing some very important things that will help us in the future. We need to continue that and get out there and work with people to acquire and bring in the talent, whether it's in all areas from I was going to try and do this alphabetically, but I know I'm going to do it wrong. From accounting to engineering to physics, right? We need everybody to make it to make ourselves successful. And of course, our partners are always absolutely critical in making it work. So those are kind of the focus elements that we have to go off and do. At least they're the ones that I can articulate here, at least somewhat clearly.
Great, thank you for that. So we'll now turn to audience questions. And what I'll do is I will call on an individual in the audience to ask the question that they've submitted. We have gone over a lot of topics here, so we'll try to keep things as sort of fresh and new topically as we can. And I'd like to remind everyone, if I call on you to ask a question, please take yourself off of video and mute so that you can ask the question directly. If there's any issues, I can read the question from the chat room, but we prefer if everyone can ask the question directly. So the first question would be from Mark Stone. All right,
Mark,
so
if you're talking, we can't hear you.
all right, I'll go ahead and read the question from the chat that Mr. Stone submitted. So per Breaking Defense, the National Reconnaissance Office has made the determination that the solicitation for procurement of commercial imagery for operational support shall be limited to U.S.-owned, U.S.-operated, and U.S.-controlled companies. This is from a March 18th, signed by Benjamin Fallon, head of Congressional Public Affairs. What is the justification of that?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I would remind people that we put out a draft RFP, and the reason that it's a draft is that we are looking for comments and thoughts on that. I think there's still time to be able to go off and do that, and we intend to evaluate those. And of course, anything that we do is fully identified in policy. I believe the article mentioned the policy that is being used. But I think the most important thing is that people should take advantage of the opportunity that it's a draft, and we're looking for people's opinions.
Thank you. So the question would be from Paul Korkmaz. It's about ground infrastructure. Paul, do you want to come on, please, and ask the question?
Sure. Thank you, Rob. Chris, thanks for being here with us. You may have already touched on this, so I apologize for the duplication, but could you please comment on what ground infrastructure or future IT needs you see in NRO's future? When you think of NRO, typically the thought is spacecraft and space-based assets, but what about the ground? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul, and you're absolutely right. I mean, people always think, NRO or any space organization, they only think about the space systems, and of course, the space systems don't work without the ground, and they're an absolutely critical part of everything that we need. So yes, we are, having to go off and look at the ground infrastructure. When I was talking earlier, I probably wasn't as clear as I should have been. When I talk about resilience and innovation, that applies to all of our systems, not just those in space. So on the ground as well, and we do need constantly to upgrade those systems and our networks to make them more resilient. I think we all know that we live in a world where there's cyber actors out there that are attempting to if not ransom our systems, at least make it more difficult for us to operate. So we have to constantly be on our toes with cybersecurity. There's a need, as I mentioned earlier, to deliver data faster. So we need to work on the algorithms that we use to process the data. We need to improve the processing capability that's out there. So all of the things that one can think about from a ground infrastructure is absolutely critical. Somebody has an open mic. Okay, but that was a great question, Paul. Hopefully I answered it for you.
Thank you. So can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
So our next question is from Ben Reed. Ben, you want to ask that question?
Good afternoon, Chris.
Hey, Ben. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. Hey, so at NASA, you managed the design, development, building of exquisite spacecraft for extremely challenging missions. And now with the NRO, you are in the same role, the designing and development and building and operating of exquisite spacecraft for challenging missions, albeit with different requirements. Any big takeaways or lessons learned either for NASA or for the NRO of what you've observed on both sides of the equation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. I would say that as you know, NASA has many different components to it. So probably the one that's closest to what the NRO does is what you would do at Goddard or JPL. They tend to be the science missions that are there, and I would say that things are not identical, clearly, but they're very similar. And the things that I've learned, throughout the years that apply everywhere is you have to have a good set of requirements, as in you got to understand what it is that you want to build and do. You have to have a good plan in order to get that done. And that plan includes not only what it is you're going to build, but how you're going to acquire what it is you're going to build and how you're going to maintain that, operate it over its planned lifetime. And then you have to build an organization that does that. And as I talked earlier, I believe the best ingredients for doing it is a streamlined architecture, giving end-to-end responsibility to the organization and having a great workforce. And I was fortunate in my NASA career to have those, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have those same ingredients here at the NRO.
Thanks, Chris.
Our next question will be from F. Wolf. Okay, I'll question unless the submitter. Okay, the question is, how is the NRO reducing duplication with U.S. Space Force R&D efforts, and how the NRO is collaborating with U.S. Space Force on the Space Force's space-based radar?
Okay, well, I mean, I can answer both of those questions pretty easily. We coordinate, you know, as I said, you know, very carefully. We have different forum at different level to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. Clearly, as you get into the mission area, you want to make sure that there isn't duplication, or if there is, it's complementary or for a reason that you want to do it. At the R&D level, we do work together, but oftentimes you want to pursue similar paths or similar goals via different paths, and we'll go off and we'll work, you know, together to coordinate that. It would take a long time to run through the various activities that we work at, but you can see it at all levels. There's most recently on the R&D side, there was a tech forum that we sponsored that invited you know, the various organizations, Air Force Research Lab, the Space Dynamics Lab, academia, what have you, to come to it where we could share ideas and understand what we're doing. That's a more public forum. There's others that are more tied to the budget to make sure that we're coordinating in effective ways. But it's difficult to walk through each and every one of those that we do. But we do it. We do work very closely, and as you get more and more into the mission area, the coordination becomes much more clear because you have focused what it is that you want to go off and achieve. So in the radar area, we're working very closely to make sure that what we're doing is complementary.
Thank you. So we have time, maybe one or two more questions, depending on how long the answers are. The first one would be a good question to touch on would be from Shez about advice for graduating students. Shez, do you want to ask that question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Scolese, for being here. I appreciate your time. I wanted to ask you if you had any advice for graduating students or young professionals such as myself as it pertains to helping contribute to R&D at various government agencies such as the NRO to achieve the nation's goal in the space domain.
Oh, that's a great question. The first thing I would say, and obviously you know it, is to, depending on whatever it is you want to do, get the degree and the training that you need, and then apply to the organization. We have here at NRO, and I'm sure other organizations do, now we have intern programs. So if you don't yet have your degree, it's a great opportunity to come into the organization and participate. You will work on something that's real and have an opportunity to contribute. That gives you the opportunity to see if this is what you really want to do. I think anybody that comes here is going to be really excited and want to stay because we do really, really neat stuff. And it will also help us because you'll be bringing new ideas that come out of academia that we can really take advantage of. If you are, a graduate, there's, many opportunities. Of course, you can come in and work for the NRO. You have to apply clearly, and there's numerous job opportunities. You can, again, go and look at our website, and you will see that there are opportunities posted that people can take advantage of. If you happen to be in the military, there's opportunities there. You have to work through your service to get that done. Other government agencies, we have many opportunities there to do it too. The thing is we're very open and welcoming to people that really want to work in the space domain, and the national security space domain in particular. We have a number of opportunities. We're growing, so there's many opportunities for you. I would strongly encourage anybody interested in coming to the NRO to just take a look at our website and come here, either as an intern or apply, or as a contractor. We have a number of organizations that we work with, both near our facilities or at other companies that are out there that build space hardware. We work with most of them, so there's opportunities there to contribute as well. Hope that answers your question, but we're looking forward to it if you're interested.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have maybe one more question. I'd like to invite Courtney Stodd to ask a question.
Hey, Chris, thanks again for this, and compliments to your staff. They've been, JR and Cam and others, been wonderful to work with. So obviously reflects the tone that you set at the top. Among the things that I suspect keep me up at night, let me walk into the world of cybersecurity. Seems every day we read about our adversaries hacking and so forth. And a number of questions have asked about the ground segment. To what extent are you comfortable, or to what extent, where do you see the challenges in terms of ensuring that we're appropriate number of steps ahead of our adversaries in protecting both the ground and the space segments? Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. It's nice seeing you. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, you know, the answer has to be, when it comes to the cyber world, one should never be comfortable because the threat is always changing. You know, there's, you know, many aspects to it, too many to really go through here, but making sure that your systems are up to date is obviously part of it. Making sure that you have the best you know, protection that you can provide in terms of, in our case, isolating those things that need to be isolated. You know, also, you know, being aware of what's out there so that you can stay ahead of it. You know, what are the trends, if you will, of our cyber actors? So that's a very complex question, and it takes, you know, a significant amount of resources to make sure that our systems stay safe and will continue to operate. But it's a great question, and it's something that I know everybody is working extremely hard to stay safe and stay operable. So I guess that was the last question.
That is the last question. We have so many more questions here, but we don't have enough time to go through any more of them at all. But so unfortunately, we are out of time for today. But I would like to thank everyone for joining us, and in particular, Dr. Scolese, your thoughtful remarks, and Ron Lopez for his introduction, and of course, everyone who submitted questions. It was quite an interesting conversation. And lastly, of course, thank